All right, welcome into Higher Living. Got Eric Bryant in today. What's up, brother?
Hey, buddy, how are you? Hey, first, before we get started, I want to say, man, what an honor and a privilege it is to catch up with a guy that I knew 25 years ago. And
We've not seen each other until
yeah,
now, and since '92, I graduated. Yeah.
I was going to say it has been a long, long time, but oddly, having a very similar background in a lot of ways, now to wake up and reconnect all these years later, man, it's an absolute privilege to be on
Oh
the show.
yeah.
So,
No,
man, I
honor to
really
have
do
you.
appreciate.
And you're rocking
Oh,
the Tennessee state flag out in California. Where do you live again?
yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
What
Yeah,
part?
there it is. Yeah. I'm in Burbank.
All right, cool, awesome.
Burbank, North Hollywood, all that. It's all so close together. I'm technically Valley Village, but that's
Okay.
between the two. So, you pick your poison. You can pick out which one you want me to be in. So there you go.
I don't envy your traffic, man. The times I've been
Oh,
out there,
dude, it is
brutal.
ridiculous.
You guys got
Well,
snow recently, right? Did I see
well,
that?
not in LA, but
Okay.
it's been snowing like crazy. The mountains have got more snow than they've had in
I
probably
swear I thought
15
I
or 20
heard
years.
LA and like Venice and shit were getting it. You guys didn't get it?
They did get a bunch of hail, so I
Okay.
don't know if that's
Might
what
have
people
looked
were
like
considering
snow.
as
I don't
snow.
know. I don't watch the
Yeah,
news that much, but yeah.
nor do I ever.
Something white.
So
Exactly.
yeah, hail, all that stuff is good.
Exactly, man. Well, thanks for coming on,
Oh
man. I'm
man,
super grateful. And the reason everyone that Eric and I, like I said, we went to school. I don't know if you went to kindergarten there. I went there first through 12th grade. Graduated with your cousin. You're a year behind me. But dude, we grew up in a very unique kind of environment, to say the
it's
least.
to say the least. Yes.
But just with social media and reconnecting, like the shit you post, and you're someone that's living life to the fullest, and so many people, as you know, are stuck in a place where maybe one day I'll do this, maybe one day I'll do that. You're somebody that is doing it, and I will get into this, but let me tell you, I saw that you like a picture you posted about you won a fucking trip on Wheel of Fortune, right?
Yes, yes.
That's badass. Let's start.
Yeah, that was the fourth game show that I'd done. So
Was it
I'm a bit of a
really?
game. Yeah, I'm a bit of a game show whore. It's true.
What are the other game
It's true.
shows
I did the first $1 million episode they ever had a Fear Factor. I'd moved to LA and
with
had been in
Rogan?
LA 1 week. Yeah, with Rogan, and I did that, and I was here one
Really?
week and got that. Yeah, that was
Shut up, dude. That's cool.
yeah, it was pretty interesting too. And I thought for sure I was like, I'm gonna win $1 million, and I got eliminated on the food stunt, and I was like,
What was
oh,
the
my life is
food?
over. Man, they had, none of that stuff ever bothered me. I tell people this all the time. I'd watch the show a million times. I was like, dude, you can pretend like that is anything in your
Yeah,
head. And as long as you're convinced it's something else, I can get that stuff down. But since I was a little kid,
yeah.
if I could have eggs, they have to be scrambled so hard they bounce out of the pan. I hate sunny side
With
up
cow
eggs. I
penis.
think they're disgusting. Yeah, exactly. How about a donkey schlong in your How about a donkey schlong in your eggs? But I
Dude.
saw this one episode, and the
Yeah.
people had to drink a raw ostrich egg, and I thought that was the most disgusting thing ever. So we pull up on set, and they're like, "Hey, here's your food stunt," and they pulled out those ostrich eggs. I mean, it was totally random coincidence, and I was like, "No!" So we had to bob our heads in a vat of ostrich eggs, pull out a cow tongue, eat a cow tongue, and then you had to eat 5 live leeches.
So,
And the
how was the
doctor,
cow tongue and the leeches? Were they okay?
well, oh, I'm sorry, it was pig tongue. The pig tongue
Oh,
tastes just like pork.
okay.
Yeah,
Like
it tasted
barbecue.
just like pork, but the ostrich eggs were disgusting. I was like retching before I got on there and had to stick my face, and they smelled horrible. And the leeches, the doctor's like, "Hey guys, by the way, people get sick all over the world from leeches attaching their intestines. So make sure you chew them up really good before you swallow them." So I was like,
Oh
"Oh my
God, that's a
god,
nice thing right before you
yes,
gobble them. How many did you
yeah."
have to eat?
5 of the leeches.
Oh
Yeah.
God, dude.
Yeah,
Dude,
I
that's
know.
bad.
I got it all down, but
Yeah.
the guy next to me beat me by like 30 seconds because they timed it all. And so that was the second stunt. So I didn't move on to there. And then I did this terrible show on Spike TV. It's called 10 Things Every Man Should Experience. It was based around a boxing show. It was awful, but Lennox Lewis was the host, so I got to meet him.
Oh, that's cool.
But but the show was dog shit. It was terrible. It was awful. And it was really bad. And then I did Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader with Jeff Foxworthy.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Dude, how did you get all these? Just applying for them?
I started auditioning for stuff, and I normally I do my normal shtick. I'd walk in with a cowboy hat on. Hey, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. You just act like a lunatic, and they're like, hey, I like your personality.
Yeah.
But that one, dude, I studied for 6 weeks, made 400 flashcards, ran the tables as high as you could go in the game, went for the big money, and lost it all. It was horrible.
Shit.
Yes. I had it.
Dude, I didn't know this, man.
On one question, yeah. And so what's funny is the question was it was weights and measurements. How many acres in a square mile? And I was like, I didn't know. I just guessed.
No.
And so I called my dad. I called my dad afterwards. I'm like, Daddy, you know how many acres in a square mile? He goes, 640. Boy, doesn't everybody know that? I was like, apparently not. Because I just lost 250.
So a fifth grader beat you.
Over it. Yeah. So fifth grader, and then Wheel of Fortune was the last one. So
where was your
man, and I just looked it's Aruba. Yeah, which was great, man. I just looked at it as all this stuff I just kind of looked at it as a life adventure. I was like, man, this just seems like it'd be so much fun. And, I got nothing to lose, so I'll just go in there and, just try to get on and see what happens. And, man, they've all been really fun experiences, except when you lose. That part sucks. Because,
But it's an experience that how many people can say they've even had, man?
Yeah, and the Wheel of Fortune one was hard to get on. It was really hard. There was a lot. There's like 8 million people that apply a year. It's like an online thing. And then you have to get in front of 500 people and audition. Then they cut it down to 100, and then down to 50, and then down to 15. Yeah, we were at this giant auditorium, and you had to stand up and call out letters. And they were calling everybody's name. And somebody let me see Jenny, and she'd stand up and go B. And so they called my name, Eric Bryant. I go, yeah. And I stood up and then started calling letters. And so I got called back.
There you go, dude.
So you got to do something to stand out a little bit, I guess, in that
Hell
particular
dude.
environment.
Well, you're standing out in life, or I wouldn't have you on here right now. We wouldn't have reconnected. But I'm grateful, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. This is a great experience for me, too. Yet another great experience. I get to share with somebody else.
This is not Wheel of Fortune or whatever, but, yeah, you're on Higher Living. Congratulations.
Still pretty cool in my book.
That's right, man.
That's all I know. Well, so I've been doing really good and that kind of stuff. And my life has moved in an interesting path since you and I had, gone to high school and that kind of stuff. Dude, I started doing martial arts about 2 years after I got out of high school.
Okay.
And man, it turned into the only thing that I wanted to do. And I realized that I loved it so much that it was going to be like the path. It was like kind of put me on the path. And through that, it ended up being one of those deals where I kind of pushed it as far as I could in Tennessee. And I realized at the time I was either going to have to be on the West Coast in California or in New York or Chicago. And I was like, New York and Chicago seem kind of cold. And I'd always heard about fabulous LA and all that stuff. Dude. So I ended up moving out there. But through doing all the martial arts stuff is where I didn't realize how big an impact it would have just because of the philosophy that went along with a lot of the stuff that I'd never really been exposed to. And I had moved from Nashville to Arizona first because that was going to get me as close as I could get to LA without being in LA. And I had a job lined up there. I was working at a chain of disco nightclubs. And I was a flair bartender where we juggling bottles and throwing stuff. And it was so much fun. I can tell you.
I bet it was.
Being young and being like 28 years old and having not a care in the world and do that kind of stuff. It was really, really fun. But I was working at a Thai restaurant, and one of the girls that worked there was Thai, and she and I started having these like really deep conversations about like Buddhism and all these other kind of things. And she's like, you should go out. And she's a super cool girl. She's like, you should go out and get this sounds silly, buy The Idiot's Guide to Eastern Philosophy. And so I still have that book to this day. It's this orange book, The Idiot's Guide to Eastern Philosophy. And I started reading that. And I literally woke up one day and I can remember to this day, I was in Tempe, Arizona. I woke up and I was like, man, what if all that stuff that everybody I knew, loved, and trusted had told me for so long, what if that stuff's not right? And what if there is no heaven and hell? And what if it's all just the stuff I've been making up in my head that makes me suffer and all these other things? And dude, the light bulb went on and poof, I was suddenly free. And it was the only time I could ever remember up to that point in my life where I woke up and I wasn't scared of dying or heaven or hell or any of that kind of stuff. It was a really life-changing experience.
That's cool.
And boom, from there, off and running into California to try to do more martial arts, try to keep following that path. And then that took me to Thailand. And I think I told you the Thailand story where
I don't think so.
I went to Thailand by myself to train over there and to vacation. I was there for a month by myself. And, it's a whole different experience when you can't speak the language and all that other kind of stuff. And I did study Thai for 2 months before I went, but my pronunciation is so redneck that nobody could understand what I was saying anyway. So it was horrible.
Jack not talk Thai.
Yeah, no talk Thai. I was like, Kap Kung Kra, and they're like looking around at people. I don't know what he said, but he tried to speak some Thai. But man, I was waiting for this river taxi to get on this taxi to go around Bangkok. And I was sitting there and I was at this little table, and I'll never forget this. I was sitting there and I was looking around, and the culture was amazing because the people were so friendly and they were so kind, and I mean, just super loving. And they don't have shit compared to what we have here.
Absolutely.
As far as like houses, possessions, any of that other kind of stuff. And this little group of Buddhist monks came walking out. It was these little boys, and the oldest one was probably 10 years old, and the youngest one was probably 4 or 5 years old. Well, they came walking by me, and I'm sitting at this table, and I was just, for some reason, just transfixed on them. I could not keep my eyes off of them. I was like, man, that is amazing. These little boys out just in this crazy wild city. And they came walking through, and they walked past me, and the youngest monk, and it almost tears me up to this day. The youngest little monk, he was like 4 years old probably. He turned around after they got about 20 feet away from me. And I guess he knew I was looking at him, but none of the other boys turned around. He turned around and he looked at me, and I burst into tears, man.
Wow.
Because I could feel how much that little kid loved me. It was the craziest thing
That unconditional
ever.
Love. That's cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was like a physical sensation, and like oh my God, we really are all connected in some strange way, shape, or form. And I don't understand it, but I know that it's real now. And that little kid just showed it to me. And from that point on, man, it's been a real journey to try to get more into, realizing that we are all connected in this strange way. And, I mean, you're doing the same thing though,
Yeah, I was going to say, that's exactly why we're talking. Fuck, man, I haven't talked to a lot of people from Lipscomb, and we are all connected. And yeah, you're right, man. And I love that we have this platform. We have this ability to do this. You're in California, I'm in Alabama, whatever. Like, to be able to do this, it's at this stage in the world, we have to make the most of this. The world's shrinking.
It really is. It really, really is.
Yeah.
I mean, but you think about this too. How much happier are you now that you don't have to deal with all those weird beliefs and stuff that kind of were weighing on you forever? Now that you've let all that stuff go, how much freer do you feel? I mean, you got to feel better too,
I do. And most of mine has come from the East as well. And, without going into all of our background, we both went to private Christian school, and nothing against it, but we went to chapel 5 days a week. I went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I had Bible every day. Jesus Christ. I remember getting like paddled for cheating on a Bible test in 7th grade. It was a hard one, man. This shit was tough, dude.
There's a special hot cell in hell specifically for people who cheat on Bible tests.
I know, right?
It's so unbelievable.
Well,
I didn't even know that. That's hilarious.
We'll have a lot of friends there, right? But no, like it definitely, like, so how did that frame you growing up? And because we talked about that a little bit on the phone.
Yeah, man, I tell you, honestly, for me, there were so many things that were so fear-based. You have to realize, I mean, you realize that, but for everybody else, man, so much of that stuff was just fear-based. And also there were so many, as long as you're you going by this set of rules, then your life's gonna be okay and all that kind of stuff. But I never had any peace or any kind of I never felt safe. I didn't have any peace with it. I always felt fearful. You're gonna burn in hell because because your body has changed a certain way, and now you really want to have sex and stuff like all that crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
And there's all that guilt, and that was one of the other things that's been really big, over the past few years, especially, is being able to drop off all the guilt and shame, because I think there's a lot of guilt and shame involved in a lot of that stuff. And again, I'm not saying it's like this for everybody, because there's a lot of people. I know a lot of really great people,
absolutely,
who have come up through what we've come up through, and they're totally happy and satisfied with their lives. But I know a lot of people who are not as well, but who are too afraid to go out there and look around, because honestly, man, once you lift up the curtain a little bit and you see that there might be something else out there, they're like, oh God, what else do I have to question now? I think it's a hard thing for people. But at our age, I'm like, man, we're technically halfway through our lives right now. Why would you not want to go out there and keep looking around and be like, man, there's got to be something else out there, and there's got to be some other way to operate that I have peace and that I feel good about everything that's going on in my life, versus being scared and guilty about everything that happens.
And I think guilt is such a big problem with that. And that's why, and I'll tell you this, I've never even shared this with you. I got to the point where I resisted and questioned everything, felt guilty about it. I felt guilty for questioning what I was raised in. But then, I opened up to, the Tao Te Ching, to the Bhagavad Gita, to other things, and I'm finding the same message. And it's funny, even going back now, I can see, the shit that we had to memorize for fucking church or school or Bible test. There's some fucking amazing teachings, the teachings, the message are the same, but what? How the fuck did we miss that, man? You know what I mean? Right?
Well, here's the thing, though. I think you can peruse through just about anything and cherry pick the good pieces of information out of it, find things out of it. And man, regardless of what you believe, whether you're Jewish or you're Hindu or you're Buddhist, or there's this kind of commonality that goes through all of it. And in a lot of New Thought, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Ernest Holmes, a lot of the guys that came up with a lot of the New Thought movement, they talked about having these golden threads of truth that ran through stuff.
Yeah.
And how about the two most important ones? Hey, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Why don't you try to treat people with love and compassion, and help other people out? And guess what? Your life
serve
will end
others.
up being pretty good. Yeah, your life is going to end up being pretty good.
And Ram Dass and Neem Karoli Baba in India, how it was asked, how does one find God? Serve others. How does one find enlightenment? Feed others. We're here to feed and serve others and love everybody. We may not, it doesn't mean we have to like everybody, but we have to love everybody for who the fuck they are.
Yeah, totally. The other thing too that I've just come to, especially over the past few years, I'm like, one of the other things that I've really tried to distance myself from with our background was there was always that we hate the sin, but we love the sinner. And I'm like, man, how do you really separate that out in real time? Because it just looks like you're hating people. Or that you're telling people because they have lived a different lifestyle or all those other kind of things that they're, oh, well, you're a horrible person and that kind of stuff. And, one of the things that I with the particular, without naming it, one of the particular ways that you and I grew up was with the particular denomination that we were in, we kind of thought that everybody else was wrong, even though, technically they all still believed in Jesus and all that other kind of stuff. I'm like, now looking back on that, I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting take to have on things. Not only do we are Christian, but we're the only right Christianity, by the way.
It is so funny, dude. And it did not come from my parents, but I thought other denominations of Christianity were going to hell. I just did growing up. Yeah. And it wasn't from my parents. It was just the environment. It was so secluded. But what you hit on, I think, is what I have the biggest problem with at least with organized Christianity, at least, is the focus on guilt. And let me tell you, to hear the term born sinner is the biggest pile of shit to me, because we're born pure love. We're born pure love. Are we going to make mistakes?
Of
Absolutely.
course. Of
And I
course.
think the problem is that need for something external from you to save you. And like, we're all going to make mistakes. And if we're holding on to our mistakes, how are we ever going to move forward?
Well, I think also one of the more freeing things that's happened as far as the vein of thought that you've been thinking in and studying, the vein of thought that I think is studying,
Yeah.
is that is the God within you thing. I mean, there is something internally in you that is moving you forward in a loving and kind way. And that's the part that you really need to pay attention to versus the particular building that you're walking into or what particular book you're holding in your hand. I always love Joe Rogan talking about he's like, you don't have to listen to some guy who wrote 2,000 years ago on an animal skin to be a good person. He's
I
like, how
know,
about you just
right?
not be awful to people and be kind and all that other kind of stuff, I
It's
think
that
it's
simple.
that it really is. It's that, and it is that inner thing that's inside you. Whether you call that God or your higher power or your
Sure.
intuition or your higher consciousness, whatever that is, man, whatever that is, that's what's really moving you forward in life. And let me tell you too, for a lot of people, when you feel super uncomfortable, when you
Mm.
feel like your life is a wreck and all that other kind of stuff, man, that is it knocking on the door, being like, hey, I'm here, and you
Yeah.
have a bigger expression of yourself that you need to have out there too.
Yeah.
So, being able to listen to that's also, but again, that falls within that. Hey, I feel guilty and shameful because I'm not thinking like what everybody I knew, love, and trust believed. I got to kind of think outside the box now, and that's scary. It really is, and I understand that too. But man, I tell you what, it's a much freer life to live, and I think you know that too.
It
So,
is. And Eric, I think, like, I feel that at least the training that that I was raised in, it's that God, what I've realized, God's not a vending machine in the sky. God is not
no,
something that's separate from us. And I don't care if your God is Jesus or Buddha or Allah or like it. And now even being able to go back and look at that, like Bible and other books differently, boy, it's pretty clear. Like, it seems like there's pretty clear instructions, like Philippians 4:8. Think on these things. Basically, think on good shit. Don't think about bad
yeah,
shit. That's that's I'll summarize for Christ on that. Yeah, think about good things and good shit will happen. You think about bad things and bad things will happen. But just this
one of the
brokenness, yeah.
one of the best. There's a center for spiritual living that I still go to out here quite a bit, and man, I love the minister there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he always says, he's like, people tell a lot of people grew up with the God who was the guy who's like Zeus holding the lightning bolts in the sky, who's waiting
Hmm.
for you to fuck up, and he was going to condemn you or that kind of stuff. Or if you do bad stuff, then he's going to see you doing bad stuff and you're going to get struck down for it, and all those other kind of things. He's like, no. He's like, the easiest way that I know to explain to people is God is literally like the Force in Star Wars. It doesn't have a face. It doesn't have a name. It is the presence that created the universe. And if you want to lean into the light side of it, and if you want to be kind and compassionate to people, guess what? It will kick back all kinds of information to you that you're going to meet more and more of those people and experience more and more of those things. Or you can be Vader and you can kick into the dark side and you can treat people bad
Yeah.
and you can act like a douchebag to people. And guess what? You'll start experiencing that kind of behavior back to you over and over again. It's just a universal principle. It really is. And when I started thinking about it like that, I was like, wow, that's a much better God to believe in
Yeah.
than the guy with the lightning bolts in the sky. You know,
And that's
who
the
wants that guy?
fucking funny thing is that was, I think, still at its core. And I've read some of the other, whatever, like Dead Sea Scroll. Like, there's so much shit out there, man. Like, it's just funny. It's like all these books, they all have the same message, but how do we miss all that? Like
Well, here's the other thing too. We're lucky that we live in the most unique time and period ever. We're sitting here having literally a video conference, and you're
yes,
across the country with me. Never in any other time in history would you be able to do this, but also never in history. The statistical information says that people 25 to 30 years old are leaving churches in droves. And the reason why
Returning
is
to
because they can
spirituality.
now, yeah, and all the other stories that they heard growing up that were historically told,
Yeah.
now they can look on the internet and be like, oh, that came from some guy in the 1800s, from some minister who rolled across the country and kind of pulled out some weird passage and came up with the rapture, or he came up with this or something else, you know. And now we're in a time and place where, like, now you can test out where your information comes from a little bit more, you know, and you're like, oh, well, that's kind of a weird story. And I didn't realize that that's actually where that information came from. You were talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Man, I had always heard my whole life, you know, the reason we know we have the Bible that we have right now, and the reason that we know it's so accurate is because the Dead Sea Scrolls had pieces of this and this and this, and there was some of the New Testament in there. I find out now there was 8 different versions of Genesis in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the New Testament, there was one fragment that was 1¼ inches in size that was considered a New Testament from the New Testament. You know, that's like a crazy thing to even think about. I'm like, well, I'd always been told it was like, you know, the whole Bible was in there and that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, I don't think it was actually like that. So, you know, it's a unique time in history that we get to actually fact check some of our information that we've got and see if it actually makes sense for us anymore.
We get to choose our own truth. And
sure.
and absolutely. And you know, like, it's never, no one's ever explained, and I'm not like hung up on it, but like, you know, we were taught the Bible was God's word. There were some dudes that sat around, decided what was going to be in it and what was not.
Absolutely. So I've told a couple of people this too. They know 2 of the most popular books in the first century were the Book of Mary Magdalene and the Book of Thomas.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't like the
Book of Thomas is, it's very, that is about manifestation.
Yes. And it talks about God being within you and that you having your own personal connect. Well, you can't have that if you want to control a lot of people and if you want them to have to get all their information from you. Yeah. And then too, the Book of Magdalene, that was so empowering to women at the time. You know what the biggest business in the world then and still is war. And guess what? Women don't want to send their sons and their husbands off to war. So they did not want women to be in any sort of position of power where they could make decisions about what would happen politically. So they're like, nah, toss that one too, you know? And so what did they do to Mary Magdalene? They said she was a prostitute, which there's zero information of that. And Thomas, he was the one who doubted the things that happened. So he became Doubting Thomas, you know? And you see all these things. You see all these things later on. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that some monk in 492 wrote that in, and like they started like swaying things the way they needed them to go. And, you know, it's just a wild thing, which is one of the reasons the Buddhism has spoken to me so keenly for a while now, because it makes sense, because it talks about, you know, life is suffering, and basically meaning in suffering, it's the thoughts that you have in your head that make you suffer. It was literally the first psychological like type of examination of, hey, these thoughts that are going in your head make you suffer, or you're attached to the way that you want things to happen. I mean, hey, I want this outcome to be like this. If it's not going to be like this, then I'm going to be upset about it, and all these other kind of things. And man, once you start dropping some of that stuff off, again, that's a very freeing experience compared to, well, I got to throw my prayers out there and hope that this is going to happen this way.
The vending machine in the sky. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, I read this today from like Wayne Dyer, and this is, I know this will resonate with you. My beliefs are that the truth is a truth until you organize it, and then it becomes a lie. I don't think that Jesus was teaching Christianity. Jesus was teaching kindness, love, concern, and peace. What I tell people is, don't be Christian, be Christ-like. Don't be Buddhist, be Buddha-like.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you talk to the normal Buddhist guy, they'll ask you, is it a religion? Nope, sure isn't. It's a philosophy. Now,
it's a way of life.
A lot of people, yeah, but a lot of people, I get it, they have made it into what looks like a religion too. But like, it's the thought process that goes behind it that makes it so profound. Just like that's the same thing with Jesus. The thought process behind that is what made Jesus so groundbreaking in what he had out there. But you know, it's also interesting to me, Jesus doesn't talk about homosexuality. Jesus doesn't talk about all these other crazy issues that everybody has a hang up on.
Mhm.
You know, none of that stuff was really mentioned. He literally was be kind to people, be loving
Love
to your
people.
neighbor.
Love
Yeah,
everyone.
just love
Yeah.
people, man.
Yeah.
Just love people.
Yeah. It
So
doesn't mean we have to like them, but we do have to love everyone for what they are. Absolutely. And it's funny, you know, our upbringing, and I'm not going to dwell on that, but that wasn't the message that I got. I don't know about you, but that's and I don't blame the institution. I don't blame parents. I don't blame anyone. It's just it's a cycle that's carried over and over and over. I mean, for God's sake, you know what I've realized even like in adult life? Jesus loves me, the song that everybody's taught as a child. Jesus loves me, this I know. For the why? Because the Bible says so. Little ones, to him belong. You're weak, he's strong. You're a piece of shit. Like, what is that? Like that is so ingrained in our minds early on. Like that submission, that separation. And I think that's yeah, I admire. I didn't even intend for this to turn into this
yeah, it's
talk,
been
but I love it.
yeah,
But
it
obviously it's
has been
there.
quite interesting. Yeah, it's been something that we're both thinking about quite a bit here lately, for
Well,
sure.
it's something it's something that we've grown through, and I respect that and love that, that
I
we've both
I have
been down that
another
path.
I have another good friend of mine, and he and I had a conversation just literally a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
and it's very similar in the things that you and I are talking about. And one of the things that he came to, he's like, "Man, I'm just glad that there's a couple of more people out there that have come through this stuff and are free, and they can look at everybody, and they can look at other people that we know and be like, hey, you can be free too. There is a
Mhm,
way to get through this stuff, and
mhm.
there's a way to like upgrade. I keep saying the upgrading your operating system, but it
I
is
love it.
literally the thought.
It is
It's
reprogramming.
literally
We have to
it.
reprogram.
It literally is the software that you've had run your entire life, and it's brought you to a certain level. And now a lot of people are like, man, I can't keep running off Windows 2.0.
Is this
I just
all
can't
there
do it,
is?
man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm running off 2.0, and guess what? I'm not happy with my life. I don't know, like I'm not happy internally. Hey, I may
Yeah,
make great money, all these other kind of things, but I'm not happy with what I'm doing with me.
that's the
And you
difference.
know, I talked about this. It's so funny because the guys that I live with always laugh about this. I'll be up in the mornings walking around, and they can hear me walking through the house.
Mhm.
Today's the best day ever. Today's the best day ever. Today's the best day ever. and my
Affirmations,
and my
man.
buddy, my buddy opened the door and he goes, "Hey, today is the best day ever." I was like, "You're damn right it is."
Dude, that's
But you know,
awesome.
that's part of if you can wake up and be happy with who you are and what you're doing every single day, man, then nothing else. I mean, all the other stuff in life is just the extremities. It really is. It's just the rest of the stuff that's going on. But
It's
if you've
being
got that
present.
internal,
It's being present. Not only being present, that is intention right there. To wake up and say that shit over and over and over. Like sometimes you have to lie to yourself. Sometimes you might be having a shitty day, but you gotta keep that thing going in your head.
yeah, and you know how many times, I mean, there is some truth to fake it till you make it. And they've also done statistical studies on how many times you repeat something and then your brain starts clicking it. Oh, hey, wow, today really is the best day ever. Whereas before you're like, oh, and for me, I mean, I'm driving 60 miles a day in LA traffic. I'm like,
Yeah.
boy, this really sucks. And now I've gotten used to listening to great podcasts and try to, and that's one of the other things I would encourage people to do as a daily practice, man. You have to pour in the constructive opposite, not drip it in. You got to pour in the constructive opposite of what you really, the things that you really want to have happen in your life. Meaning that, man, if you're in circumstances like I am, where I'm in horrible traffic every day, people are nasty to each other, all that other kind of stuff, man, I'm driving along and I'm listening to great material and trying to laugh and trying to do the things and listen to great music, singing along, having a great time in the car, trying to use all those times, that little bit of time that I have to try to put something else in my mind to make me realize, dude, I am really lucky because I am free and I am really happy, especially like you were saying in this moment. Because most people are
Oh,
either ruminating
no.
in the past or they're projecting off in the future
Afraid
and
of
they
the
forget about where
future.
they're sitting right now,
And on top of
But
that, bringing their past into their present, like they've
yeah,
had something bad happen in the past and we're all programmed. We didn't even talk about this. This is totally not even what I planned on recording with you, but I love it. Love it. But like, it's so true. Like we're so programmed to expect like we're programmed to expect things to go as they have in the past, and things as simple as this is the best day ever, this is the best day ever, or driving it, and as opposed to listening to the news on the fucking radio, you're listening to something positive that brings you knowledge and lifts you up. It's our choice. It's our choice, right?
Absolutely. And then, the more that you can convince yourself that you really are in a happy moment, that you really are, that this really is the best day ever, and those kind of things, man, I'm telling you, if you you change your mindset, and the world around you will literally start rearranging itself in some magical and strange ways. I've got a really good friend of mine, and she and I talk about this all the time. She's like, you always seem to have interesting and amazing things happen to you. I'm like, magical shit. That magical shit happens to me all the time. And I literally have walked around forever now. I'm like, dude, I got magical shit. I don't even know why it happens that way, how it happens that way, but somehow I bump into the right person. Something happens this way, something happens that way. But you also have to realize, man, there's a vibe that you give off about yourself. When you start programming yourself, especially with those routines that you run, that daily routine of, hey, this is the best day ever. You start bumping into people, you're smiling, you're asking them how you're doing, all those kind of things, and trying to get out of yourself. Hey, and
Giving love in whatever way it is.
Yes. Being of service to other people doesn't mean that you have to physically go out and do things. It could literally be like, hey, I love that. I say this all the time. Man, it's so great to see you today. It's so great to see you. I love your positive energy. And I remind people that they have positive energy too. And guess what, man? It charges you up. It really does charge you up in a dramatic fashion. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you have routines that you run every day? Do you have like a regular set of routines that you run throughout the day? What does that look like for you?
Really getting more tied into meditation and just on a different kind of level, and really focusing more on my breathing. I'm doing a lot of mantras in my head, kind of like you do. I say them out loud to myself, but absolutely, yeah. Those are a couple things that come to mind. But
do you have a meditation app or any of that kind of stuff that you
use?
Yeah.
Well, I've not a meditation app per se. I've got some things downloaded that I'll use. Another huge one is physically writing gratitude, and it is sometimes it's a motherfucker. Sometimes I don't feel like it, but to physically write down things that I'm grateful for. I know it allows us to shift from what's missing, what's wrong, to what I do have. And I think the more where our energy goes, attention flows, our attention goes, energy flows. So if we're focusing on things that we don't have, what about this? What about that? It brings more of it and breeds more of it. And if we make that time to physically write down things that we're grateful that we do have, that only attracts more of the same thing. And you're walking, living embodiment of that, it seems.
Again, the best day ever thing. I do that all the time in the mornings. And I know it sounds weird and a little hokey, but I try to hit my knees in the morning. I try to literally get down on my knees, and I always do a gratitude prayer in the morning. That's one of the things that I do. And I always say,
Puja wall. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, God, I know you're everything out there. You're literally every atom that's moving through the universe. You're everything. And if that's the case, that means I got to be you too. So I'm so thankful for all the people that love me, all the people around me, the kids I get to see, all those things. And exactly like you were saying with writing down your list, by kind of going through those organized thoughts every single day on that kind of stuff, man, it makes a dramatic difference. Again, you got to fill the tank. You got to try to fill the tank as much as you can, because even if you get it 51% in the positive range, man, it makes it a lot easier to keep on moving up and up and up in how you feel internally. But if you're on the low side of it, if you're on the shit side for the day and you keep focusing on the shit side, your tank just gets lower and lower and lower, and it can be hard to pull out of that kind of stuff.
And I've learned,
I was going to say, I just wasn't sure if you had like a normal set of routines, because I'm always interested in people that are successful and that kind of stuff, in the kind of routines that they run. And, I do the best day ever thing in the mornings. I do the prayer in the mornings. And then I have a little note card. I pulled out this note card. Hopefully people can't see it too much. But I have a little note card that I didn't have a laminator. So I took tape and I taped all over to make it a laminated card. And it has It has 3 physical goals, 3 spiritual goals, 3 career goals, 3 financial goals, and 3 thing goals.
Love
And
it,
I
dude.
just get up and I say these in the morning too, and then I say them before I go to bed at night. I just read them out loud. I'm like, okay, these things are going to happen in 2019.
And
So
that's the most important time I've learned to really have these practices is first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And especially last thing at night. None of us, you know, there's that subconscious part of our mind, our soul, whatever you want to call it. We don't have to make our heart beat. We don't have to make ourselves breathe. We're able to go to sleep, and what we think, you know, like our thoughts do become things. Thoughts become things. You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
and
there's
we're it's as far as like getting that refill, you know, you talked about you have to keep refilling the tank. You can only get so much refills from out someone or something external. That's
yeah.
what I've learned.
And never truer words were spoken. It's just once you tip the scales, man, once you tip the scales a little bit, going toward the more positive side of things,
Yeah.
man, you'll start to feel that internal shift. And that was what that is the fake it till you make it sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to plow through that. And there are days where I get up and I'm walking around the house, I'm like, it's the best fucking day ever. It's the best fucking day ever.
Gutting it out.
You know,
Gutting it
and
out.
you stub your toe and there's no hot water left.
Yeah.
It's the best day ever, you know. And then somebody cuts you off in traffic and all that kind of stuff. But man, I've just learned that the other thing is that, man, life really is too short to just be pissed off and sad all the time. It's just such a grumble. It would be such a terrible way to waste your life away day after day doing that kind of stuff. So you
Not
might as
even
well
just
be
pissed
happy.
off and sad, just existing. Life's
That
not
too.
about existing. And it's
Well, and
easy. Everybody gets in that trap and everyone's holding out for the perfect day, the perfect moment that okay, well, when the kids are older, when I have this amount of money, this. And it's the top regret of the dying in that book I told you about. I wish I had a life. I wish I had the courage to live life true to myself, not the life others expect of me. That fucking sucks, dude. That is the top regret of people on their deathbed. Like, then it's like, fuck, too late. And it's easy, you know. I mean, like, dude, we haven't talked in 20 fucking years, but like, time is not slowing down.
no,
Choose
it
now,
waits for.
man. We have to choose to be happier now.
Have you ever read The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss?
I have, yeah. It's been a long
Dude,
time. I need to read it
yeah,
again.
yeah, man, that book drastically
I'm gonna write
changed the
down.
way I looked at work and everything else,
Yeah,
because he did it. You know, statistically, people exactly like you were saying. Man, I'm going to save up when the kids move out of the house, and I'm going to put all this money away for my retirement. You know, and then I'll get to live when when I retire at 65. Then I'll get to live my golden years out in this amazing fashion. And what they found is that 80% of people can't save enough money by the time they're 65 to be able to retire comfortably,
yeah,
and then they have to work another 5+ years. And by that time, they're 70 years old, man, or in their
yeah,
late 60s. And guess what? The years of their life where they were the most vibrant, healthy with their health, the time of their life when they could have moved around the most and gone and seen the most, all those years are gone, man. You
yeah,
can't get those back.
yep,
And I read that and I was like, it literally, that was one of the things that I was like, man, it is super important while I'm in this stage of life to make sure that I'm experiencing things. So I always try to make sure and take at least one really big trip a year where I go out of the country. That's one of the things I've really been trying to focus on. And
good,
then, going around and doing other things and trying to meet as many people as you can and trying to have as many other experiences as you can too.
yeah,
And I tell people this all the time, traveling is good for the soul. There's
yeah,
just something really good about traveling and meeting other cultures and all those people and, all that kind of stuff, man. It's
yeah,
just
dude,
so important for you instead of trying to put it off until, I'll wait. Don't worry. When the kids have moved out of the house, then we're going to take this amazing cruise and blah, 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 and all that stuff. I'm like, that day may never come. It may
yeah.
never come. Or you could drop dead tomorrow of a heart attack. I mean, you really could, you
Our
know.
birth certificates don't come with expiration dates, right?
Definitely do not.
Yeah,
They definitely do not. So you better be happy about the one that you've got this day right here that you got right now and start living that one the best you can. And guess
hell
what? If you
yeah,
do a few of those in a row, the next thing you know, you've stacked up quite a few days together. Then it turns into a few good years. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, now I can die. Here we go. Boom, I'm gone. And then I
yeah,
just connect back into the other stuff too. I will say, I was going to ask you this too. You know, just from the background that you and I had, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that always terrified me, I was always so scared of dying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that even as a kid, that was one of the things that I always had, was so fearful about death and all those other
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. And you know, I don't really worry about that anymore. And that's also a very freeing thing. I wasn't sure if you had the same experience with that too, or, you know.
Yeah, my birth father died in a car wreck when I was 8 months old, and you know, I don't remember him, but it took me a long time to recognize him and heal that. But I'm with you because I personally, I believe I love the story. I think I heard Ram Dass talk about it from talking about the Buddha talking about how long we've been taking lives. And this goes against our upbringing, by the way.
Yeah.
Some blasphemy here. Cover your ears. But imagine a mountain 6 miles tall, 6 miles wide, and every 100 years, a bird flies over with holding a silk scarf. As long as it takes for that silk scarf to wear down the mountain, is how long we've been taking lives. And I think, you know, like the deja vu, and there's so much we don't know. And anyone that's
Yeah.
going to argue about this, park your fucking ego, man. We don't know shit. But I'm not afraid to die. I am trying to live every day to the fullest, and I'm gonna die. So are you. Bad news. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing that as humans, like, why do we resist that so much? Everyone's so focused on not dying, on prolonging life, but who the fuck's living it? You're one of them, man.
I, oh, well, thank you. I'm starting to realize that there's less and less people who are really getting to live the life that they want to. I was talking to my buddy in Arizona yesterday, and he's a real good friend of mine. He makes a lot of money, and he's actually a really good guy. He's pretty spiritually involved and that kind of stuff. And I was talking to him about some financial investments and some other things. I was like, man, I would love to just be able to, you know, sit behind a computer screen and check check the stock market at 3 or 4 times a day and just be able to make, you know, mailbox money that way. I was like, you know, but I have to be, you know, slave to the grind. I still got to go out and teach and all that kind of stuff. He goes, well, let me tell you something, buddy. You have pretty much the best job of anybody I know. And it dawned on me. I was like,
Amen.
Wow.
Amen, dude.
Because he literally said to me, he goes, dude, I've got a boss I have to deal with. I'm like, dude, but you make crazy money. He's like, yeah, but I have a boss I have to deal with. I have agendas all the time. He goes, this is not how I would choose to make my money. He goes, this is just what I do. He's like, but he goes, you may make less money. He goes, but you seriously are one of the happiest people I know. And I was like, oh man, I really appreciate that. He goes, so I'll help you with the investing side of things, but
there you go, dude.
Don't worry about where you are right now. He goes,
and it's so
you've got a great life.
Dude,
you
know? Look at the story you've already shared. And, you know, I learned that through some of my biggest years. I made really good money and won Rolexes and trips and shit. And I wasn't happy. It's not about that, man. It's about now. It's about now.
Yeah,
it's about now.
I really do think that's one of the other things that I've gotten more and more. Have you ever read Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama? The Art of Happiness?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've been rereading it again. And it's so funny because I literally would read a page a day and I'll get stuck on a paragraph and I'll have to go back and reread it like 4 times. I'm like, man, that is so profound. It's so profound. But just the investment in trying to sit there and literally be like, hey, I'm so thankful to be sitting here right now talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like an amazing thing where we're really in the moment, like, wow, this is pretty fucking cool. From Alabama to LA, we're sitting here having a conversation.
Haven't seen you since 92 at least. Yeah.
With like-minded people, with somebody that also I hadn't seen literally in 25 years, who's now we're on the same river, rowing on the same boat. I'm like, oh, wow. Maybe there is more of us out here. This would be okay. I think we can do this, you know? And, you know, and along the way, this is one of the other things that I loved, especially about, you know, with the social media thing, because I'd never done any of that stuff when you and I reconnected. That was the first social media platform. I'm not even on Facebook.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm realizing too is that, like, it actually lets people know, hey, man, there might be another way to live where you really could be really happy. You could genuinely be happy if you wanted to be. But you got to choose to make some other decisions about the things that you believe and whether they serve you anymore or not. And that's the hard part, is like clicking out of that section of the thoughts, you know.
It is, but man, like that is precisely why if you had just been posting like pictures of what you're having for dinner or your fucking car or some shit, I doubt I would have. I just like you stand out, and I hope I do have to wrap this up soon because I don't want to go too long because I don't know how to
Oh
edit
yeah,
video
for
yet.
sure.
But will you be willing to come back on? Because I was gonna like find out more and more, but we be willing to come on again.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to.
Good,
Man.
dude.
This has been an
So
honor just to do this.
absolutely, man. I love that we got off track, and that's the thing. I don't have plans with this, but in this, just what we've talked about. What's something if you could go back? What's made the difference for you?
What's made the difference for me? Man, that is a tough one. I mean, there's probably been a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I think overall I can say the biggest thing that's probably changed my life in the direction that it was going in was realizing the old beliefs I had didn't serve me anymore. The day that I woke up in Arizona and I was like, man, that stuff does not serve me anymore. And there's a better way. And I literally felt like the weight of the world was off of me. That's the thing, is not realizing that those beliefs don't serve you anymore. And that
And that's perfect.
it's okay to go out there and find your new set of beliefs that really do serve you and that'll make you happy and have a great life. I
Hell
think
yeah,
that's
dude.
it, man. I think that's it.
Man, I
So
really appreciate it, and I will bug you again on another Friday. Like, I still want to talk about. I had so many questions. We didn't
dude,
get
we could
there,
any dude,
but like,
anytime you
I
want
do
to.
want to hear more about your story and what you're doing. And yeah, is there anything that people want to reach you or find you? What's the best way for them to find you?
I would say if you want to reach out to me, usually the best way, hit me on Instagram because I check that out quite a bit.
Okay.
It's Erik, Erik Erik Bryant Bryant, and then TN as in Tennessee. So Eric Bryant TN, yeah, on Instagram. That's probably the best way to reach out to me. And dude, I got to tell you, not to sound strange or any of that kind of stuff, dude, I really do love you. I got mad love for what you're doing
No,
right
love you too,
now.
man.
I
Absolutely.
think you're doing amazing stuff. And I would leave this with your viewers too, man. I tell people this all the time. If you feel like you need to tell somebody you love them, you should. It
Hell
shouldn't
yeah.
sound weird at all. Tell people you love them and let them know how you feel about them because they
All the
might
time,
need
man.
that too.
Absolutely, dude. No, not strange at all. I'll tell everybody I love them and love you too. Thank you for your time, man.
Dude,
Please come back on, man. I got more to ask you, but I love that it just flowed.
we just rolled off.
I think it was
Yeah,
some old childhood shit we had to clear.
Yeah. If you want to revisit this again, we can do another round.
Absolutely,
If you got more
dude.
questions, we can roll through that
No,
too.
dude,
So.
I do want to talk more about like what you're doing and like, how you
Okay.
got there, but yeah, if you're willing to.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely,
Anytime,
man. You
man.
let me know. And anything you need from me, man, you let me know. I'm always there.
Thanks, brother. You got any
All right. Have
plans
a
this
great day,
weekend?
bro. Have you well, I am going to go meet. I have friends that are in from Nashville today. So I'm
Oh,
gonna go
sweet.
eat yeah, I'm gonna go eat dinner with them, and then I'm going to an early premiere of Shazam tomorrow.
There you go, dude.
Because it looks ridiculous.
Dude,
And I
that's
love
awesome,
comic
man.
book movies. So
Oh yeah.
so I'm like, I gotta go see that at least. So
Dude,
anyway, man,
thank you, man. I really appreciate your time, man. And you got
dude,
a hell of a story, man. You're living life unlike most. I wouldn't have reached out. So that's a testament to you. Like you're doing it, man. You're doing it,
well,
man.
coming from somebody like you, I really do appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And for you and your viewers, have the best day ever.
Hell yeah, brother. Happy now.
Hi, bro. Yeah, that'd be right now. All right.
All right,
All
man.
right. Have a good one,
Take
man.
care,
I'll
Eric.
talk to you
Thanks, man.
soon.